Welcome into Emerald and Lilywhite. This is episode 45. We are back and we got all kinds of amazing stuff to talk about. Jump right into it. Spurs are in the final of the Europa League. We have not recorded since the big win up in Norway. 2-0 to Spurs, goals from Solanke and Poro. We're going to get into that. But yeah, we're here to talk about the fact that Spurs are in the European Cup final. Been a messed up season. Obviously, we sit in 17th place, but all wrongs could be righted in one match. Here to talk about it with me. You can find me at Scotchy Bird, but here to talk about it with me is Max at Going Limbs. Max, what's up, man?
Yeah, not much. Just happy that we are heading to Bilbao. Um, I think the if we had recorded like right after the Bodo Glimt game, I think we would be a little bit more excited. Since then, I wouldn't say it's been like the best of stretches for Tottenham, but we're in the final. Which is what we all predicted at the start of the season. So despite the season not going how we thought, like this has worked out for us. We're in the final. Unfortunately, have to play against Manchester United, who we've beaten 3 times before this season, which is quite annoying. However, yeah, we're here to break it down. However confident we may be. Uh, so yeah, it's exciting times, but we're also really close to having the worst season that we've ever had. So, yeah, it's
Yeah.
just really interesting to be a Spurs fan right now.
Yeah, I mean, you said it best. If we don't win this match, it all of a sudden turns into honestly our worst season in almost 100 years. So yeah, it's a very polarizing season to say the least. But again, lots of I don't want to say all wrongs can be righted, like I said earlier, but the majority of wrongs can be righted by winning one match. As you said, we've beaten Manchester United 3 times already this season. It'd be super nice if they would just go off season aggregate and say no matter what happens, Spurs have beat United this season and we hand them the trophy. But unfortunately, in Europe, that's not how any of this works, or any knockout competition for that matter. So Spurs need to do a fourth time what they've already done 3 times this season. On one hand, we can be confident in the sense that again, we've beaten them 3 times. On the other hand, that's opportunities for Ruben Amorim, and I believe at least one of those was Eric Ten Hag, right? Two of them were
One,
Ten
one,
Hag.
one was
One
Ten
was Ten
Hag,
Hag.
two was Amr.
Two have been
Yeah.
Amorim. So he's had 2 opportunities to look at what we're going to do. But honestly, if I look at what's happened
And I think
throughout the
it's
knockout
notable.
stages, oh, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt
No,
you. I
there
think
you go.
it's notable that the Ten Hag time was 3-0, and the other 2 times we only won by 1 goal each time. So
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, obviously, a better manager, we would have to think, and some of that's probably new manager bounds. I know one of those matches was honestly right after he was appointed, but yeah, either way, I think I look at Ange throughout the Europa League knockouts, and he really hasn't put out the same tactical approach in any 2 games yet. So credit to him in some sense there, right? I think he's the interesting thing about what I've seen, and I don't mean to just get into the Ange Postecoglou of it all, because you and I have talked about that a ton on this show, but Ange has shown in the Europa League knockouts that he can take matches game by game. Begs the question, why did that never happen throughout 38 Premier League matches, right? Why did we continuously shoot ourselves in the foot throughout the Premier League campaign? But again, he's shown that he can be tactically flexible in these knockout matches. I think both matches against Bodo Glimt were, again, atypical to what we've seen from Ange. Both of them themselves were a little bit different too. Let's talk about the matchup in Norway, and we got a couple other things we want to touch on, but let's start up in Norway. Obviously, as we show across the bottom of the screen here, Spurs take a 2-0 victory away from Bodo Glimt and a 5-1 aggregate score in the semifinals of the Europa League. Credit to the squad, goals from Solanke and Poro. I think the Poro goal certainly wasn't a shot, but it found its way into the back of the net, right? And we know that because Pedro himself said in an interview that he didn't mean to shoot that ball, but it went into the net. What are your biggest takeaways from 30,000 feet from that matchup in Norway?
I think like it was just good yeah, game management, tactical setup. Like we mostly controlled the game without even having that much of the ball.
Yeah.
which is something that we have not been able to do ever, really. So I don't know whether that's because of the quality of the opposition or what it was there, but like they really weren't able to create much of anything. They had 0.77 xG over 2 legs. We had over 4. And I wouldn't even say that we were playing like good attacking football. Like I don't think at all like our patterns of play were at all like impressive. Obviously, a goal from a corner and a mishit cross like isn't something to write home about, but like when it's away in a European semifinal, you can't complain. Like it's honestly like the perfect performance and result for that game specifically. However, I don't know how applicable like those tactics are going to be for a one-off final, like where we're not going in with a 2-goal lead, and for like against a team that I frankly just think is way more talented. They may not be better coached or have had a better season than Bodo Glimt, but they have better players. And um I think specifically, like people have talked about, like Richarlison and Solanke. When we were out of possession, it was pretty much like a 4-4-2 kind of system. Like you could see how deep Brennan was compared to the other two, and Richie and Solanke did a great job of pressing. I don't know if I want that against United, just because if we have Richarlison and Brennan Johnson on the wing, like the lack of creativity could really harm us like a lot, especially having no 10. Like I think we need wingers that are gonna be able to take their man on and create chances and cut and come inside a bit and play a little bit more inverted to create chances, because I think we're gonna struggle to create if we put out the same lineup that we did. Even though it's been working, it was working in a tactical setup that I don't think would help us win a final, but did work against like an inferior opponent. So I commend the tactics for the semifinal, but I don't want to see like an if it ain't broke, don't fix it approach to the
Hmm.
next game, because I feel like that could be where we get a little bit mixed up. Like it's just a completely different game than against Bodo Glimt, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I mean, if we even look back to Frankfurt, Frankfurt had the majority of possession in both of those legs, right? So we've actually ceded possession in the majority of the knockout phases. I can't recall what happened against Alkmaar. I suspect we had a little more of the
We
ball than we did.
dominated both
Yeah,
games.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I suspect we held most of the ball against Alkmaar, but I know against Frankfurt and obviously Bodo Glimt, as we've talked about, we did not. Again, very atypical of an Ange Postecoglou approach, but I completely agree with you. I think that what we did against Bodo Glimt will not work against United. Let's call it what it is. We're expected to be in the final, so obviously I commend the team for getting there. But if you look across the span of the season, I'm not going to sit here and say, bravo, you guys were fantastic this year. You were expected to be in this European final. The bookies had us as a favorites to win this thing from day one. On paper, there are only 2 other teams in this competition who should be able to compete with us. We're playing one of them in the final. The third happened to play United in the semifinal, right? So I personally think United did us a little bit of a favor getting through Athletic Club, because I think Athletic Club has phenomenal wing play, and we know that
But they're
phenomenal wing play.
injured, right?
They're both injured, so
Yeah.
that was a huge piece of this too. I mean, neither of Iñaki or Nico Williams were available for the second leg of the semifinal, and I don't believe Nico Williams was available for the first leg. Nico Williams is their best player. I would say Nico Williams is the most dynamic player in this competition. Again, he happened to not be available for the semifinal, and so as much as I don't think United will be an easy match for us, I think Athletic Club might have been a little bit more of a mismatch for us. Again, assuming that everyone were available for them, we don't know. It's a moot point because we're playing United. But regardless, us, United, Athletic Club, we're the 3 best teams in the competition. Man United, as you said, are going to be a much tougher opponent than Bodo Glimt ever was. I think a big part of why we got through was because we played a pretty poor team in Bodo Glint, who somehow got past
They
Lazio.
were they were so bad.
They were
Like
awful.
they didn't threaten us at all. They didn't look good at all. Like it was honestly shocking like how bad they were. And I don't think that we played particularly well. Like I feel like that sounds like that comes across as negative, but that's not like any shade to Ange. I thought he got it spot on, but I
Yep.
don't think like our team was like impressive. It wasn't something where I'm like feeling like super confident going into the final based off our semifinal performance. It was kind of like, oh, like we're just way better than this other team and we're doing the bare minimum and still thrashing them. That was kind of what it felt like.
I completely agree. And like you said, I'm not taking anything away from Ange. I think he got the tactics spot on. The way that we pressed in the middle of the field, the way that we went direct in the first leg was super impressive. The second leg, I admittedly was not able to watch the second half. I had an obligation, but I watched the first half in full detail and then caught up on the second half, right? A little bit of a different approach. I think the one thing in the second half the second leg that really stood out to me was Kulusevski man-marked Patrick Berg super tightly and did a fantastic job because I think Patrick Berg is really talented. And I've said it on the show before. I think he can play six for a much better team than Bodo Glint. He played in Ligue 1 in France, found his way back to his native country. But I think he's a very talented player, and Kulusevski was able to shut him down. He really just honestly shadowed Patrick Berg for the majority of the match. We're going to get to Kulusevski a little bit down the line here because there's some news that came out today that's super unfavorable. But back to United, I think the one thing that I'm thinking here, and you mentioned it earlier, they're a better team on paper. When you look at the two lineups, Bruno Fernandes is undoubtedly the best player across both of those two lineups, right? Without a
Yeah.
doubt, in my opinion. He's going to be really tricky for us. Normally, I would say Kulusevski would want to stick Kulusevski on him pretty tightly just because of the work rate, and Kulusevski's always willing to stick into a tackle and get dirty, right? Again, we're not going to have him as we're going to get to. But Bruno Fernandes is going to be the key for me as to what we're able to do with him. Because I think on the wings, we're probably going to see Patrick Dorgu at left wing back. I'm not sure what happens on the right side of the flank. I haven't watched.
Dallo.
Dallo, that would make a lot of sense. So out wide, I'm not super concerned with what they're with how they're gonna threaten us. It's really through the middle that makes me a little bit concerned. Let's just talk about our midfield because I think that ties into that conversation really well. We know that we're gonna not have Kulusevski. It came out today. For those who don't know, the Kulusevski did undergo surgery for whatever injury he picked up against Palace.
Patella.
Yeah, Patella.
But like,
Now,
I
I'll
feel
go.
like okay. Can we talk about this? Like, is anyone like? I just feel from my perspective, like I watch other sports, and it seems like people are just like, oh, Kulusevski's out. Like he didn't just have fucking knee surgery. Like Tristan Casas is on the Red Sox and he just blew out his patellar tendon last week and they're saying like he may never play baseball again. Like is this I'm just so confused. Like it feels like, oh, like of course we don't have Kulu for the final, not like he's gonna be out until 2026. Like
Yeah,
I feel like that's more the case right now. It's like this is not just a summer thing. Like I feel like he is going to be out until like 2026 if it's actually like a full surgery. Like he had just had knee surgery. Like I feel like that's not just something you come back from,
right.
especially with the patella tendon. That's like a really long and hard rehab process, and it's not like a meniscus, which is probably the lightest of the knee surgeries. It's definitely something else, something a little bit weirder, and requires a relearning how to walk again. Like I don't know how serious or like they didn't specify at all. This is what I fucking hate about English sports. Like they never tell us what's actually wrong with the players like we do in America. So we just like, oh, like he had surgery. Like what? Like it's just so strange how they communicate it. It's like we get no information. But if that is the case, like it was a full repair, then he's gonna be out for a long time, which I feel like people haven't clocked or I'm just out of the loop. I don't know if you've seen anything else, but like he just had knee surgery. I feel like people are not like at all like making a big deal out of it. They're more like concerned that he's missing the final, rightfully so. But like this is like a long-term thing, it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you're saying. I think it's a really good point. Obviously, people are going to be pretty short-sighted to the final because that's really all we have as Spurs fans right now. I don't think anyone's thinking any further than next Wednesday at this point in time, right? But yeah, and then to your other point, I don't think anyone really knows how bad it is. It could be a minor repair. It could be the case where he's even questionable for the final, and the doctors say, "Yeah, probably not best." And at that point, if he's not going to play, you just get the surgery and see if you get him back for next season. Or it could be worst case scenario where he's fully blown it. And like you said, that's a pretty long-term deal. I don't expect we'll get too much. I mean, Ange said in press conferences that no one was really worried about it, right? And here we are. Here we are. And that's
It's
been
such a fucking joke, dude. Like that
that's been
shit's so annoying, bro.
yeah,
Like
it's been the case all year. Anytime that somebody goes down, it's like it's low key and it's kind of played off in these pressers, and then it comes out that things are pretty serious. So I don't know if that's by design. I don't know if there's a lack of communication. I don't think we'll ever truly know what it is. But yeah, it was pretty big news this morning that we found out that Kulusevski will not be available, and we wish Decky all the best as he recovers from whatever it is that's on the horizon for him with regards to this injury. The other thing that's interesting to point out is it came out today that Bergvall is potentially working to get back in time for the final. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that would just mean he's available. I don't know if that means he starts. Obviously, an ankle injury is pretty concerning when it comes to soccer, right? So we'll see what happens with Bergvall. But we know Kulusevski's out. Bergvall's 50-50 at the moment. And then I think we have to start talking about what happens in the rest of the park. I think we can both agree that Bentancur starts. I don't think there's any world where Bentancur doesn't start this match. And then it really comes down to either Basuma or Sarr. And if history is
Basuma.
It's got to be Basuma just based on what we've been seeing.
Loki played well in big games, like throughout the Liverpool second leg where he was horrible. I mean, I think about like that City game, Liverpool first leg. He was just subbed on, I think, because of a Bentancur injury. Is that right? Or they were doing a double pivot type, and
he was on the pitch, and then
he was on. They were doing the double pivot. Bentancur gets hurt. They need to bring, I think, either Sarr or Bergvall on, and then Basuma's the solo, the single pivot, and he was fantastic in that game. That might have been his best game I can remember in a Spurs shirt. Aside from like Ange's second game against United, where I just remember Basuma that game, I was seeing visions of like a world-class six. Like I don't know if you remember that performance, but that was incredible. And to be honest, I think he's my player of the semifinal over the course of the two legs. I think he was our best player.
I agree with that.
And yeah, dude, this Basuma Remontada is pretty impressive. So I think you can nail down those two in the double pivot. It's about the third guy. So I know we've been bouncing ideas off each other in the group chat. I think we've come down to 3 or 4 players that it could be. Let's just assume that Bergvall's out.
Yep.
I think we have decided on Sarr, obviously, for 1. Sonny, potentially at 10. Odegaard, potentially at 10. And then, like, a long shot Mikey Moore at 10, but that's not going to happen. So I'd say between Son, Odegaard, and Sarr, power rank what you would do at the number 10 spot, and then follow that up with what you think is going to happen.
Yeah, I'm going to throw a wrench into this game.
Feel free. Yeah.
I'm gonna say the Bentancur is an option at the 10 too.
Okay.
And I only say that because he plays really well at the 10 for Uruguay, pretty consistently. I mean, he plays 10 for them fairly often. He played 10 for them the whole Copa America and played well. He also under Conte, somebody pointed out, and maybe it was you in the group chat, was hot when it came to his goal contributions, both in assisting.
He was. Yeah.
So I think Bentaker is an option as well. I don't know what that
But
does.
that would be the SAR. That would, I think, like,
That
if you
means
think
star
it's
play.
Bentancur, that would be like the SAR option as well. I assume that's what you're
Yep,
saying, right?
100%. Sar
Yeah.
has to play if Bentaker is at the 10. So
Okay. Yeah.
my preference in this order would be Bentaker plays the 10 with Sar and Basuma behind him. I'm not saying I love that, but that's probably my
Yeah.
preference. That's the most natural choice for me. Second would be Sonny at the 10. I think that is a bit of an experiment, as we talked about in the group chat, right? But I think Sonny's technical. I know Chang, our boy, may not agree 100%, right? But I think Sonny's technical enough to play the 10. I also think Sonny combines really well in 1-2s in the box, actually. And
I
I think
agree.
that could be helpful in breaking down United. I think Sonny's better inside the box than he is out on the touchline. We've talked about that quite a bit as well. So I like Sonny there. I also think Sonny can kind of float off Dom if he's in the 10, right? So that would be
And
my
think about Conte. That's what
Mhm.
I guess we keep coming back to that, but Son, when he won the Golden Boot, like, was because we were in a 3-4-3. Like, he was
Yep,
playing a Lamb or a left attacking mid
yep,
more central. Like, he was pretty much just playing like a left-sided 10, which is what James Madison plays for us, frankly. Like, James
100%.
Madison is always drifting to that side in the middle more, which I think would suit Sonny super well.
Completely agree. And the way that Sonny played off Kane in that system, I'll never say that Dom Solanke's Harry Kane, but they have a similar way of playing striker, I think, right? And so I think Sonny could do a job in the 10. After that would probably, this may be a shock to some people, but I'd go Mikey Moore. And then last would be Odegaard. Now, people told me that Odegaard played the 10 fairly often for Burnley. I think you told me that. So
16 appearances
16
last year.
appearances as a 10. So yeah, some of me ranking
And
Odegaard
he
as my
played
fourth.
this weekend.
He looked
When
okay.
Kulu went down, Odegaard was the choice at the 10. I don't know if we can read into that whatsoever, but that is what happened. We subbed more on, and I was like, oh, so he's going to go more at the 10. And it was actually, no, we're pushing
Yeah.
Odegaard in and putting more on the wing.
Yeah. So, honestly, probably me saying more over Odegaard is just biased because I'm just a Mikey Moore stan, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But I would say realistically, Odegaard gets that opportunity before Mikey Moore does. But so I'll go Bentancur, I'll go Son, I'll go Odegaard, and then Mikey Moore. I'll just throw him in there because I agree with you. I don't think that's going to happen. But
Yeah.
for me, the resounding Bentancur is as the best option there. I think he's very technical, and I think he could do a
Okay.
good job.
Yeah, I'd say if I was a betting man, it's going to be Sar, Bentancur, and Basuma.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know if that's going to be good enough, depending on who our wingers are. If I was the manager, I'm going Basuma, Bentancur, Sonny. Um, and then I would also consider Odegaard there. I like Sar, and I honestly like him in this game a lot. I feel like he has a work rate that he can kind of run the United midfield. They're pretty stagnant. Like, Bruno doesn't work back a lot. And then their
mm-hmm.
sixes are like Ugarte and Casemiro, who I wouldn't say are the most like forward,
No,
like box to box players. So he can kind of occupy that box to box role and dominate that area, which I think would be good in this game. It would just come down to Bentancur's creativity for me. So I guess I'd go with Bentancur as the second option, and then I'd go. I think Odegaard and Mikey Moore following him. I think if we are going off pure ability, I think Mikey Moore is the best 10 we have. But experience does matter, and I feel like we need our most experienced team on the pitch today, or on Wednesday, the May 21st. And yeah, so what do you think about the front three? So if if my lineup, if I'm picking the lineup with Sonny at the 10, that takes him out of the conversation for the front three. For me, if Sonny is playing the 10, then I would like to see Richarlison play alongside Solanke. And then on the other side, I would go with Tell. If Sonny isn't playing the 10, I would go with Sonny on the left, Solanke up top, and Tell on the right. Now, this could just be completely wrong because there's a good chance we see Brennan Johnson on the right, but what do you think in those two scenarios?
So I like Brennan Johnson to start in this match. And anyone who watches the show knows that I'm a little more favorable to Brennan Johnson than you are, right? And not that either of us are right or wrong. It's just kind of where we both have always stood, right? I think I like Brennan for a couple of reasons. I think because they use wing backs, I think he's going to have a little bit more space to find. And I do like the idea of him being able to run at a center back, less than like a left back, right? Which he's going to have opportunities to do that. I don't know what their back three is going to look like. I couldn't tell you. I know
Yeah,
Harry
I
Maguire
can.
there.
I have it pulled up. So last game, that they played in the Europa League, and I need to pull up their injury list as well. One sec. Um, all right, so here it is. So last game they had in the Europa League, they had three in the back. Um, but it's more of a five back either way. Euro, Maguire, Lindelof. Euro is hurt.
Yep.
So that is a huge miss for them.
Yep.
As we know, Lissandro Martinez is hurt as well.
Yep.
De Ligt is hurt, but could be coming back. So if I had to guess, I would say it would be De Ligt, Maguire, and Lindelof, which is amazing for us, to be honest.
Agreed.
And that would be De Ligt coming off a knock, like he was not on the bench
And he hasn't been
last
great
game.
regardless, even when he's been healthy for them, in my opinion. So
Yeah, so it pretty much comes down. I'd say Maguire and Lindelof for sure. You can maybe talk to me about Luke Shaw. I don't think so at center back. But it's either going to be a banged up Euro or a banged up De Ligt. So I
yeah,
think it's going to be De Ligt. Yeah, they seem pretty concerned about Euro's injury over the weekend. So that's what it's going to be for our
yeah.
wingers.
Well, so I do like Brennan Johnson. I think that he's going to be able to outpace whoever is playing a left center back, and I think that'll give him one or two opportunities to find either the back of the net or a ball across the face of goal. I also say Brennan Johnson because statistically speaking, he's right up there at the top when it comes to goal contributions this season. He was
He's
last
second
season as well. So when in a final, you know that if you're going to win, you need to find a goal, at least one, right? There's no way around it. And so I like Brennan for that reason. Then on the other side, obviously we know Dom's starting. And then on the other side, I don't know. I mean, I think, excuse me, there's a conversation between Richarlison or Tell for me. It's kind of harsh to not even mix Odegaard into that conversation, but I just don't think he's ready for the start in this big match. Obviously he's coming out of an injury. I just don't think we've seen enough for me to just stamp him on as a bang on starter in this match. I think
So is this assuming Sonny's at the 10 or just
assuming Sonny's at the 10.
Okay.
So I'm saying obviously if Sonny's not at the 10, he starts on the left.
Okay.
Has to
be,
right?
I agree.
But if he's at the 10, then I think it comes down to so let me start over. I'm saying Johnson's on the right. If Sonny's at the 10, then we're talking Richarlison or Tell. If Sonny's not at the 10, he's on the left, and then it begs the conversation about the 10 again. But when I look at Richarlison or Tell, I think they're both a good option. I think Tell has looked really lively in the past month or so. He's willing to take his chances and drive at defenders and cut inside and hit balls, and we're going to need that in this match. But I also like Richarlison for his experience. I like him for his grit and his determination and his shithousery, which I think can be valuable in the final. I also like the idea of just having another person in the box who is strong
Can
with
head it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I do, especially with Pedro Porro certainly playing, right? It's the back line picks itself. I don't think we need to have a conversation in this match, right? And so I like the idea of Richarlison getting his head on balls. So there's always the argument, do you bring Richarlison on in the 65th or something, right, to mix things up? But no, it's a final. I want to score an early, so I'm going Richarlison, Dom, Brennan Johnson with Sonny at the 10. That's my preference. Now, again, if Sonny's not at the 10, then I would prefer Bentaker with Sonny on the left, Dom up the middle and Brennan Johnson on the right, and then you talk about when Richarlison comes on, right?
Yeah, I think for me, if it's going to be Richie on the left, we got to go Tell on the right. Like,
Yeah,
we just need more creativity in that team. And Johnson, like he's a finisher. Like he's an end product guy. He's not going to create chances for others that weren't already like a through ball played into him. Like he's not going to take more than 3 touches to like create something. It's going to be like a one touch cross or finish. And I
yeah,
feel like we need a guy like Tell that can dribble at their defenders. And if that is Mate or what's it? Is his name Mateus as well? Wait,
yeah,
Delict?
Matthias. Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Spelled
yeah. If it's
differently, but yeah,
Mateus versus Mateus, then I really like telling that matchup as well. Former teammates, by the way.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, for United, Mazraoui started the last game at right wing back. I think Dallow's actually hurt. Yeah, he
mm,
is. And then Ugarte and Casemiro with Bruno Fernandes in front of them. Dorgu on the left. I think Dorgu's definitely starting for United.
yeah,
And then Hoyland and Garnacho were up top. I would be shocked if Diallo doesn't start. He's just really good.
yeah,
And Kobe Mainu, I don't know if he's in the mix at all. But he's played well in big games, I can tell you that. And then
yeah.
Mason Mount grabbed 2 goals. So Mount is coming into form. They do have options, but it's kind of hard to say where they're gonna go right now. Yeah, I did. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, they certainly have more options than we do. I honestly
In the
won't be
midfield for
surprised.
sure.
Yeah, no doubt. I won't be surprised if we allow them to have more of the ball than we aim to have ourselves. We fared well throughout all the knockouts, as we've talked about. That kind of brings me back to Richarlison and Johnson both being on the pitch. I look at the way that we came out hot against Bodo Glimt in the first leg, right? It was Porro to Richarlison to Brennan Johnson that got that early goal. So, but either way, I mean, I think we can talk in circles about this all day long, but ultimately, Ainge is going to do what Ainge is going to do. One of the things that you brought up earlier that I think is worth touching on, and this was off air, but whether or not on Friday against Villa, because we do have a match before the Europa League final that I was going to say arguably, but firmly no one gives a shit about point blank period at all, right? We're all thinking about Wednesday. The league is just an absolute shit show. Who cares, right? But we do have a match on Friday. You had mentioned off air that you think that there's a chance that what we see on Friday could tell us a lot about what's going to happen on Wednesday, because the majority of coaches would probably just run out their first 11 for next Wednesday on Friday, put them through their paces and their expectations tactically, right? But you also mentioned that Ange doesn't do things in a typical way. So, do you think that we see rotation on Friday, or do you expect to see the majority of what we see on Wednesday this coming Friday against Villa?
Yeah, I think there's no reason to rotate. We didn't have a midweek game this week. Our last game was Sunday. It's an ample amount of rest, and Friday to Wednesday gives us like 4 more days in between the game. And I think like at least for the first half, like you can do whatever you want at halftime, but I think for the first half, if people get injured, like we just need to see it, dude. Like we haven't had any continuity at all this season, due to injuries and other factors. I'd say the fact that the only part of the pitch that we know is the defense is not a good sign going into a Europa League final. I think most teams would have their 11 get into a bit of a rhythm. I mean, I thought we had a bit of a rhythm with that Bentancur, Bergvall, Madison midfield, but clearly that's not happening. So I think you got to see it. You got to see it because that midfield will have not played together because Kulusevski was filling in for Madison the past couple games. Um, and I think that, yeah, you got to see it at least in the first half, like what we're going to see on Wednesday. and I don't think there's any sort of like gamesmanship happening. Like both teams know each other so well that it's not like we're gonna be like giving away any tactics or whatever it may be. I think we just got to see it against Villa. And also there is another third scenario that we didn't talk about. If Lucas Bergvall is healthy, are you starting him in the final, and over who?
I probably don't start him in the final, and that's strictly because he will have not have played football in like 5 weeks at that point in time, right? Maybe a month.
Yeah.
I don't think he's experienced enough to throw cold into that big of a match. But I think if you have him on the bench and he has 60 minutes to just like take in the atmosphere and settle his nerves from the bench, and by the time he comes on, he's itching to play rather than nervous, right? From the jump. I like Bergvall to come on and make an impact later in the match, similar to what he did against Liverpool in the first leg of that Carabao Cup semifinal, right? When he bagged that beautiful goal. So I like Bergvall to come on later in the match if he's available, and be really, really nice if he is available. That's some of that creativity that we're a little bit worried about lacking in this match. And I'd just be really happy for young Lucas Bergvall to get to feature in such a big match, right? He's really shown himself capable, and on the back of a massive new contract. Do you know what his wages are on this new deal?
Let me see.
Because he was on 15K a week before this new deal, which is pretty solid actually for a teenager. That's a pretty big deal in itself for an unproven 17-year-old, right? When he signed for the club, but I'd be very curious to know what that wage increase looks like, because I bet it's pretty significant.
Yeah, let me find it.
I'm gonna look as well.
Lucas. Yeah. Okay. 5-year 3 point.
I'm seeing 65K a week.
Let me double check.
Yep. Through 2031. Yep, 65K a week is what I'm seeing. Annual salary of 2.38 million. Yeah, that's a big deal for him. That's a life-changing deal right there, and he's earned every penny of it. I'm really happy for Lucas. But yeah, it remains to be seen. But as we mentioned earlier, there are grumblings that Lucas could be available for this match. Again, in my preference, off the bench, but that would be pretty big for the club.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I probably wouldn't start him either. Just because there's no point if he's still hurt, that could go really poorly. He's
For
also
sure.
only 19.
Yeah,
Um,
big deal.
he's still like our second youngest player, just ahead of Mikey Moore. As crazy as it sounds, because how good he's been this season, that is just the truth of it. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's crazy
probably.
though. No, I was just gonna say it's so crazy that we have no Madison, no Kulusevski, no Lucas Bergvall. It's very, very reflective of the season that has been. But look, this is a one match final. I'm not the type who wants to hear about, oh, no Madison, oh, no Kulusevski, no Bergvall. Just fucking get it done, Ange. This is one match. Find a way to get it done. Just win is all I'm thinking, and I'm sure that's all every fan is thinking. I know at Spurs we have this, oh, our DNA is attacking football, and people were talking about fossil football all the time under Conte and Mourinho, blah blah blah. Like, I don't care if this is the most fossilized of football that's ever been. Just win this match at all costs, right? Is the deal here, and I got to give credit to Ange. It's been a horrible season, but the dude came out and said, I win things in my second season. And here he is on the cusp of doing exactly that. There was a very interesting conversation. I don't know if you caught it, between Rebecca Lowe and Gary Neville on I think it was on Rebecca Lowe's podcast, or it might have been Call It What, might have been can't remember the name of the podcast that Gary Neville is on. I believe it's called Stick to Football. Pretty good show, actually, right? But they had a conversation in this match, and both of them said it would be pretty awesome for Ange to swagger across the field, after winning the Europa League, after saying that he wins things in his second season. And Neville even said, like, I would tip my cap to him and join him and applaud him heavily, right? Even though he said it would be against my team and it would be hard for me, but Ange could go out and shut a lot of people up on a Wednesday, and I'll be really hopeful that he's able to do that, and I'll be super happy for him if that happens. Of course, I'll be happy for the squad and for myself as a fan, but I'd be really happy for Ange Postecoglou, regardless of what happens after that, regardless of how just the discontent that I've had with him this season. I'll be really, really happy for Ange Postecoglou if he can get this done. And like I said, just get it done, Ange. Don't care how you do it. Don't care what happens. Just go and win this match, please.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think the Kulusevski thing, like, he was terrible, I thought, against Bodo Glimt. Like, he was just really bad. Yeah, I thought he was an absolute passenger in every single game he's played since coming back from the injury. So I'm not even too like, I don't know whether he was going to look like a different player or what it is, but I didn't think that was like as big of a blow as people are making it out, because he hasn't had a good performance, I'd even say, since 2024. So, we can move on without him just fine. I feel like Madison and Bergvall are much bigger misses. But we got through the semifinals without them. Madison played a bit in the first leg, but yeah, we just got to get through the final with whatever lineup he puts out. We're going to have the better team than Manchester United on the pitch that day. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but we should win the game. I think we should win the game. I don't know if we will, but all signs point to us being better. Like the history against and against Amorim and against United, just the players that we have. I don't see any reason for us to lose. So yeah, it's all on the table.
It's interesting because if we split the field into defense, midfield, and the attack, right? I think defensively we wipe the floor with them. I mean, we talked about their probable back three already. I don't think there's honestly a back four in the league other than probably Liverpool's, right? That I would compare to our back four when all four of them are healthy, especially Romero and Van de Ven. City has been hit or miss, right? But Arsenal, unfortunately I have to give Arsenal their credit, right? But outside of Arsenal and Liverpool, I don't think there's a back four that competes with ours in the league. So defensively, we take the cake. I would say up top, we take the cake for sure. Son, Solanke, Brennan, Richarlison, much better than their attack. And the midfield is where I have questions, especially missing Bergvall, Madison, and Kulusevski. Ugarte and Casemiro have been good the last month. Casemiro was awful and all of a sudden just came out of nowhere and started playing some amazing football, right? And Casemiro's got more experience than anyone else that will be on this pitch in big matches, right? So I think their midfield is where I have a little bit of concern as to how we match up, right? But I think what we talked about earlier, Bruno Fernandes is the linchpin for them. Typically, I would say I stick Kulusevski on Bruno Fernandes and just have him run with Bruno the entire match and just kind of nullify him. Even I would tell Kulusevski, you don't have to do anything for me. Just make sure Bruno doesn't do anything for United, and you've done your job today, right? We're not going to have that option. What do? Do you stick Sarr on him? Do you stick Basuma on him? If we're going to say that the midfield is, let's say hypothetically, Basuma, Sarr, and Bentancur, who do you task with marking Bruno Fernandes in that match?
Basuma,
yeah.
Yeah.
I have a few concerns about him taking cards in that scenario.
I agree. But then, That's fine if Bergvall's an option off the bench. If he's not, I don't know. It just gets tough. You could do Sar, but like I also think that he's better going forward, so you kind of wouldn't want him hamstrung with that like defensive liability if he's because he's so good in transition. Um, yeah, it's interesting. I think Basuma is the best defender,
Yeah,
so
agreed.
that's why I say that. Like I think
Agreed.
by a mile, he's the best defender out of those three. So
Agreed. I just like I said, I worry about Bruno's very good at baiting people into cards. And Basuma is pretty good at taking them. So we'll see what happens. But I agree. I mean, it has to be Basuma. I don't think you can task Sar with just man marking someone the entire match. And like you said, Bruno won't track back often. That leaves the true six in this setup as the most likely option to be tasked with keeping Bruno quiet. But that's my main concern. All right, well we're gonna record one more time, listeners, before the final. So we'll do a 30-minute episode, 45. We always go a little bit longer than we plan on, right? But we'll really just break down the final in full detail. So we'll talk tactics, we'll talk potential lineup. We've already gone into some of that now, obviously, but we'll really hammer in full depth what we expect to see and what we expect to happen in that match. So we'll move on here briefly. Do you want to talk about Palace for a second? Obviously, Spurs fall 2-0 to Palace on the weekend. One of those games, like I said earlier, no one really gives a shit. Horrible performance, right? Just
yeah,
awful. Yeah,
yeah, it's
terrible.
terrible.
Terrible. Heavy rotation, I believe. 9 players were rotated from what we saw at Bodo Glimp, if I'm counting correctly. I think Bentaker started.
He did.
And Poro started. And I think
Yeah.
those are the only two that went again from Bodo Glint. Yeah, just awful. And I do have some concerns that a rotated side is so poor. And I understand depth, blah, 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 injuries, blah, blah, blah. But come on. Like that, the gulf in class when we rotate is very alarming to me, is it not?
No, yeah, it certainly is. Yeah, going off the lineup from that game, Spence was getting caught up in transition a lot. Although I don't think he played too bad, as people were saying. Davies just looks washed. I think it's over. I think
Yeah.
he's done his time here. Shout out to him. But it's over. Sar looked pretty good, I thought. Kulusevski barely played. Odebear looked pretty good in the 10. I thought Moore looked pretty good on the wing. I thought Tell looked okay on the wing. Um, but he played striker a lot as well in this game, so it was kind of hard to tell for Tell. Gray looked horrible. I
Yeah.
thought he was really, really bad in the
Same.
midfield again, which is slightly concerning. Maybe I was a bit off
Bums me out,
base.
man. Just bums me out because I love
Yeah,
Gray. He's been awful though.
he was really bad. And then Kinski was really good.
Yeah.
Kinski was fantastic. And they had, I think, I have it right here, 3.39 XG, which is absurd. And yeah, Kinski saved us from it being like 4 or 5-0. Um, but it was just a weird game. I thought Moore was decent though. Thought Odebear was decent at 10. Um, and Sonny
Yeah.
played. He didn't really do much though. And it was
Yeah.
half and half for Bentaker and Basuma. And either way, I don't know. It didn't really matter.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the biggest issues in this match were Ben Davies, Archie Gray.
Yeah,
But
big
also,
time.
I mean, Palace is strong up top. Eze sounds like Eze is off to Man City this summer. That
Is that confirmed?
yeah, I mean not confirmed, but he's reportedly all
He's
over the
not coming to Tottenham?
I wish, man, but I don't think so. I think if Man City comes calling, he answers the phone. That honestly, all reports are that they're seeing him as the KDB replacement, which is interesting. I think he do a really good job there. But I think with Eze and Mateta, we were always going to have a pretty tough day in this match with all the rotation. So again, I'm not saying it's okay. Rotation. I don't accept losses, but I understand why it happened. Is what I'm saying, right? I'm not blown away by the result by any means. And again, no one cares what happens in these remaining Premier League fixtures. We have one match that makes our season on the 21st of May, a week from today, and that's where all our eggs sit right now. The only basket that Tottenham Hotspur carries is the Europa League final. So the other thing I want to touch on before we wrap, normally I kick this over to you. We talk about academy and loan watches, right? But big deal today. Jamie Donnelly and Josh Keeley helped Leyton Orient reach the playoff final for League One.
Yeah.
They beat Stockport 4-1 on penalties. Obviously, Josh Keeley is a huge part of that penalty victory. He was a net. I know neither of us were able to watch this game, but do you want to talk about this at all for a second before we wrap?
Yeah, I mean, huge for Josh Keeley and Jamie. Both of them started both games in the playoff, and they're going to the championship.
They're in the final now, so
Oh,
one
they're in the
win now.
final. Oh,
Yeah,
I thought why did I think the championship promoted 4 teams? Or
I
League
don't
One
know.
promoted 4 teams? That's totally wrong. Wait, that's League One relegates 4 teams. My bad.
Yeah, they
Um,
relegate for you.
okay, so they would be against Charlton,
I'm not
I
quite sure if
think.
they play the final.
Oh, tomorrow. Charlton or Wickham.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's right.
that would be scenes. If Leyton Orient was able to get into the championship, who knows? Like, could maybe even get those boys into the championship next season with the same team and manager.
Send them
Although
right
I don't
back.
know how we feel about the manager anymore, but looks like
Yeah,
they're getting promoted.
yeah,
So that's awesome. George Abbott, I believe, was playing in a playoff for Notts County. They are playing against Wimbledon on Saturday. They are down 1-0. But George Abbott, um, young player of the season nominee for League Two, Spurs loanee, um, and looks like he was one of their better players in that first leg where they were down to 10 men. So they lost 1-0. I'd say they have a shot at promotion as well.
for sure.
So um, yeah, it's exciting times. We finally got some good loans. We also had some loans wrapping up. Ashley Phillips had a really good loan. Stoke fans seem to love him. Um, on the contrasting side, Lancashire and Yang, I'd say disappointing loans, but I don't know. We'll see this summer what happens with those two. I don't know if Ashley Phillips, we'll have to see with the new manager. I don't know if he fits Ange's system, or else I feel like he would have gotten a chance by now, because of how good he has been in the championship. But it's
Yeah,
going to be interesting. Yeah, I haven't been too tapped in on the academy recently just because the first team, I mean, we're in the final. So,
yep.
yeah, but it's nice to see our boys, our academy boys, contributing to some promotions in the lower leagues. That's always good to see. I
No
always
doubt.
remember that Oliver Skip Norwich season, probably the best loan we've ever had. Like he was like the sixth when Norwich got promoted, and then
Yeah,
went
it was
straight to
awesome.
the Spurs first team. He was really good. So yeah,
Yep. Well, and honestly, if we're talking Abbott, Donnelly, and Keeley, I would prefer players play in these playoffs rather than just getting straight promoted by finishing first or second. Right? It's like massive big game experience. I don't know if there's. I mean, obviously Champions League final, Europa League final, that kind of stuff, right? But a playoff final in either League One or the Championship is honestly as big of a football match as you may ever play.
yeah, for
I
sure.
mean, that's career changing stuff and club changing stuff. There's a reason these clubs like Leicester and Norwich don't mind going up and down. That's big money, right? When those types of things happen. So, yeah. Anyways, I'm just really happy that they got a chance, all three of them, to play in some really big matches. I think that'll do them wonders. The Phillips one is interesting, like you said. I think Vuskovic probably pips him in the pecking order
Yeah,
almost immediately when he gets to Spurs next
yeah,
season. So there's we don't know what's going to happen with Romero, right? But there's going to be some pretty solid depth at center back next year when we're talking Danzo, Romero, Van de Ven, Vuskovic, Phillips, maybe
Dragusin.
Radu when he gets back. I mean, under the right manager for Radu, there's a
Yeah.
conversation there, right? So we'll see. But either way,
Yeah.
really happy for these young guys.
Yeah. I was gonna say, on the playoffs point, we've all seen like the famous Deeney goal for Watford against Leicester City. Um, that was in the championship playoff. I think it was the semi-final. I didn't even know if Watford got promoted that year.
I don't think they
Correct me
did.
if
I
I'm.
think they lost in the final.
Yeah, yeah. So like that was all for nothing, but no biggie. But I saw something the other day that was really funny. Like, so Leicester miss a penalty. Knockhart takes it. Obviously, the famous commentary on Leicester's bench that day. They had Harry Kane and Jamie Vardy, and neither of them played in the game.
Yep. They're not
And
looking
yeah,
good.
they ended up losing. So yeah, what could have been for Leicester there?
Right.
Two of the probably the two best English strikers of the past decade were just
On the
casually on their
bench.
team on the bench while they were
Um,
losing in the championship to Troy Deeney. So yeah.
that's hilarious. Yeah, and shout to Harry Kane lifting the what is it called? The
Yes,
Render shot.
the Der Kleinmeister. Is that
Yeah.
it?
I
Yeah.
don't know. He won the
Yeah.
big plate.
He won the
So
plate.
yeah, shout to Kane. Honestly,
Kane trophy.
yep, Kane and Dyer too. Dyer getting the trophy as well. I'm really happy for those boys. We've all said our piece about Harry Kane leaving in the manner that he did, but he looked overjoyed. And
Yeah,
there's every reason to think that him winning a trophy gives us more of a chance of bringing him home at some point, right? So I'm really happy for Harry Kane. He
agree.
looked so happy, and
Yeah,
all the videos that he put out. Happy for his family. They've stuck by him and moved to Germany. They just really happy for Harry Kane. So shout to the greatest player to ever wear the Lilywhite, getting his first major trophy. Long may it
facts.
continue. 31 years old, he's still got plenty of chances to continue to win trophies. I honestly think he's the type of guy that could play till he's 37, 38 years old at a pretty high level. So we'll see. But yeah, shout
Facts.
to Kane. Also want to make sure that we point out the conversation around these loanies brought to you by our wonderful friends at the Wits End, Rainier Growlers, and Cascades. Primarily, you're going to catch matches, at Cascades down in Puyallup on the south side, and as always, we'll be at the Wits End on the north side in Finney Ridge. We do somewhat meet at Rainier Growlers on the south side as well in Puyallup when the need arises to do so. But those are our three homes. Make sure you get down to one of the pubs. Be sure that you're keeping an eye on Seattle Spurs Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. It is always at Seattle Spurs on all platforms so that you know who is open for the Europa League final. We know
It's
for sure.
Ruben's Brews. It's
Oh, thank you. Good
yeah,
shout.
yeah. So the Europa League final, I don't know what the decision making process was around that, but whether it was a capacity thing or not. But yeah, so for Seattle heads, or like suburbs surrounding Seattle, it's going to be at Ruben's Brews in Ballard, which isn't too far from the Wits, maybe like a 5-minute drive.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, relatively the same area, Ballard, not Finney Ridge, at Ruben's Brews. Apparently their owner is a Spurs fan
He
as
is.
well. So shout out to that guy. I don't know if you know him, but yeah. So it's not at the Wits. Um, it's at Ruben Spurs. I don't know. Was that the case for the Champions League final? I did not live in Seattle at the time, so
I believe so. I was not in Seattle. I did live in Seattle, but I was not in Seattle for that match. But I believe it was at Ruben's Brews. Yeah, Ruben's Brews is a
you
wonderful
were in
part.
Madrid.
Oh, God, I wish. I was in Iowa for a wedding. Funny story. I was in Des Moines, Iowa for a wedding. That was right after the final. I go to the one big soccer bar in Des Moines. It's called the Royal Mile. It's an English pub or English style pub, we would say, right? And I'd been gone from Des Moines for like 5 years at this point. Turns out it became a massive Liverpool bar since I had been gone. So it was myself, my wife, and like 100 Liverpool fans. Just about ripped a Gooner's head off for just getting involved in a heated debate with my wife that I didn't appreciate, right? No violence or anything, but just had to put this gooner in his place. But yeah, I ended up watching the Champions League final with like 100 Liverpool fans. Made it out unscathed, had like 13 pints of Guinness, barely made it through the wedding. Yeah, it was a good day. So I'm hoping that this will be a better day, that we will walk away with that trophy finally. I do not want to go through losing a European final again, and I fully expect Spurs to avoid that for me. So up the Spurs.
Yep.
Thanks for bringing it up. We'll be at Ruben's Brews for the finals. Get down to Ruben's Brews, please.
And then for Puyallup, I don't know. I keep it like I just follow the social media, the email, Facebook. I assume it's at Cascades.
I believe
but
so. Yeah.
Don't know for sure. Yeah, I'll be at Ruben's Brews. Chang will be at Ruben's Brews. So yeah, dude, it's gonna be crazy.
It's gonna be an awesome day. Yeah, get down to Ruben's Brews. Keep your eyes on the socials, like Max said. We'll let you know if we're gonna be at Cascades down south in Puyallup. If not, and you're down south, get up to Ruben's Brews. It's worth the drive for this one, right?
I know Steve was saying like he thinks it's gonna be mostly like Seattle Spurs people, but I don't know if your experience like it feels like a more like popular like mainstream bar. Like the Wits is pretty low key. Like if you don't know about Seattle Spurs, I feel like. Do you think there's going to be a lot of United fans? Like I've never been there, so I
I
feel
don't
like
think it's
okay.
They'll be at the Georgian Dragon, I would imagine. Most
Right.
United fans for
I
this
thought that
match.
was an Arsenal bar.
It's kind of a Premier League bar. I mean, Arsenal
Or
fans tend
Newcastle
to go there.
even, maybe.
Well,
But,
my understanding is it's straight up just Premier League bar, and they
okay.
welcome all Premier League teams. But I will say, if you're listening, don't bring your Gooner friends. Don't bring your United friends. We don't want them there. I'm just going to say that for the whole group. Hopefully, most agree with me, but just don't bring somebody wearing a rival kit to this match. Not going to be a good option. Get down, support Spurs, wear your Lilywhite proudly. Make sure you're following the socials. As we said earlier, Seattle Spurs on all platforms. You can follow us, Emerald and Lilywhite, and Lilywhite on all platforms. Max just mentioned it, the Seattle Spurs Gmail. Shoot a note to seattlespurs@gmail.com. We'll put you on the mailing list. You're going to get all kinds of information, including what's going to happen next Wednesday, right, for a refresher, Ruben's Brews. Well, you get all kinds of information around watch parties, holiday parties, just Spurs content in general. So make sure you sign up for that. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Really helpful for us, not only to grow Emerald Lilywhite, but most importantly, to grow Seattle Spurs, which is the goal of everything that we do here. So please like and subscribe. But for Max, for myself, for Chang, for Keegan, for Robbie, for Steve, for the whole crew, we appreciate everybody who's been along for the ride here on episode 45. And as always, come on, you Spurs. Let's lift the European Cup.
Come on, you Spurs. Hell's Irish.